somewhere beyond mile marker 47, where the road turns to gravel and the forest swallows the light. For 60 years, these trees have kept their secrets. Tonight, we're pulling one back out of the dark. This is midnight at Wolf Cloud Station. Keep the doors locked. Keep the volume low. Tonight's file, the Yuba County 5. Yuba City, California. A farming town in the Sacramento Valley, the kind of place where everyone's cousin knows everyone else's neighbor. Flat, fertile land, orchards stretching to the horizon. And winters that stay mild in the valley, even while, just a few hours east, the Sierra Nevada is buried under feet of snow. In February of 1978, that distance, between the mild valley floor and the merciless mountains above it, would come to mean everything. This is where 5 men called home. Jackie Huett, 24 years old. The youngest of the group, quiet, well-liked, someone who lit up around his friends even if he didn't say much to strangers. Bill Sterling, 29, steady, dependable. Jack Madruga, 30. The one with the car, a dark green 1969 Mercury Montego he kept in careful condition. If the group needed a ride, Madruga drove. It wasn't a chore for him, it was pride. Ted Weiher, 32, the eldest. Big, gentle, well over 200 pounds. And Gary Mathias, 32 as well. The most recent addition to the group, and in some ways, the man at the center of everything that happened next. Each of these 5 men lived with a mild developmental disability or a psychiatric condition, conditions that at the time weren't always talked about openly. But what's crucial to understand is this. These were not men who required constant supervision. They held jobs. They lived in their own homes, came and went as they pleased, and made their own decisions day after day without incident. They'd met through a local vocational rehabilitation center, and somewhere along the way, basketball became the thing that bound them together. They played in an organized league through the center. They were good. Good enough that the next day, February 25th, they were scheduled to compete in a tournament through the Special Olympics. By some accounts, their uniforms were already laid out at home, ready to go. But the night before that tournament, the 5 of them wanted to do something else first. Something ordinary. 50 miles north of Yuba City sits Chico State University. And that night, February 24th, 1978, the Chico State Wildcats were playing UC Davis. It was just a game. A road trip 5 friends could make easily. Jack Madruga got behind the wheel of his Montego. The other 4 climbed in, and they drove north into the evening toward Chico. They watched the game. What we do know is what happened next, because it was caught on camera. On their way out of Chico, the group stopped at a convenience store. Surveillance footage, the last confirmed visual record of any of them, shows the 5 men buying snacks. Chocolate milk. Small, unremarkable purchases. The kind of stop you make without thinking twice. It is the last time any of the Yuba County 5 were seen alive. From that gas station, the route home was simple. 50 miles south, straight down through the valley, a road all 5 of them had traveled more than once. There was no reason to expect anything but a quiet drive back to their own beds. They never arrived. When the sun came up on February 25th and none of the 5 men were home, their families didn't panic, not at first. But hour by hour, that reasonable patience curdled into something colder. And when investigators finally began tracing where that green Mercury Montego had actually gone, they found something that made no sense at all. Not 50 miles south, toward home, but 70 miles in the opposite direction, climbing up, out of the valley, into the frozen heart of the Plumas National Forest. 4 days, that's how long it took. February 28, 1978. A California Highway Patrol officer is working a routine stretch of the Oroville-Quincy Highway, deep in Butte County, when something catches his eye off the shoulder of the road. Half buried in a shallow drift of snow, pulled slightly off the pavement, sits a car. It's Jack Madruga's Mercury Montego. 70 miles. That's the distance between this spot and the route these 5 men should have taken home. 70 miles in the wrong direction, up into the foothills of the Plumas National Forest, on a highway that has absolutely nothing to do with the drive from Chico to Yuba City. There is no reasonable explanation for why this car is here. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The officer approaches on foot, and what he finds only deepens the wrongness of the scene. The doors are unlocked. One window is rolled halfway down. On the seat, the wrappers from that convenience store stop. The snacks, the chocolate milk, sit empty. Eaten at some point after they left Chico. The fuel gauge still reads a quarter tank. Enough gas, by any reasonable estimate, to turn this car around and drive straight back to the highway that actually led home. But the keys are gone. And so are Jackie Huett, Bill Sterling, Jack Madruga, Ted Weiher, and Gary Mathias. There's no blood in or around the vehicle. No broken glass, no signs of a struggle, nothing torn or disturbed. Just an empty car, quietly abandoned, in a place none of these men had any reason to be. Word reaches the families within hours. And with it, a strange, cruel kind of relief collides immediately with a much colder question. If the car is here, where are the 5 men who were in it? Search efforts begin almost immediately. Volunteers, search and rescue dogs. Where the weather allows it, aircraft sweep low over the tree line, scanning for any break in the snow. For days, they search the terrain surrounding the car. They look for footprints. They find nothing. No trail leading away from the car. No boot prints in the snow, no signs of 5 men struggling through drifts. It's as if the car was simply left there, empty, and the men inside it stepped out of the story entirely without leaving so much as a mark on the ground behind them. As the days stretch on, the search area widens, but the results stay the same. The active search winds down because there is, quite simply, nothing left to search. The mountain has taken 5 men whole. It will be nearly 4 months, through the spring thaw, through the slow retreat of the snowpack, before the forest gives any of them back. June 4th, 1978. Nearly 4 months after the Mercury Montego was abandoned, the snow finally retreats enough for a group of forest rangers to reach a remote forestry service trailer. It sits deep in the mountains, 19 miles past the car. The rangers approach the door, expecting an empty cabin. Instead, they break the lock, step inside, and are hit by the unmistakable odor of decay. Lying on a mattress in the center of the room is a body. The body is identified as Ted Weiher. He is wrapped from head to toe in 8 heavy sheets. The investigation reveals a horrifying reality. Ted didn't die the night they went missing. By analyzing his beard growth and extreme weight loss, forensic pathologists determined that Ted lived inside this trailer for anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks. Starving, freezing, watching the door, waiting for help that never came. What makes Ted's death a profound tragedy is the environment around him. The trailer was fully equipped for stranded rangers. Outside, an emergency storage shed held enough freeze-dried military rations to feed all 5 men for an entire year. Inside, there were matches, kindling, and a valve to turn on a massive butane heating system. Yet none of it was touched. Ted starved to death surrounded by food and froze to death in a cabin with a working heater. Once the trailer was discovered, search teams fanned out into the surrounding woods, now clear of the deep winter snowpack. The forest began giving up the rest of the group. Just a quarter mile from the cabin, investigators find human remains scattered on the forest floor. Near them lie a leather wallet, a plastic comb, and a pair of shoes. The items are quickly traced back to Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling. Days later, another discovery is made. Across the road from the trailer, hidden deep in the brush at the base of a massive pine tree, a forest supervisor spots human remains. It is Jackie Huett, the youngest and most vulnerable member of the group. By the end of June, 4 of the 5 men have been accounted for. But as the search concludes, one massive question mark remains. Gary Mathias. His canvas tennis shoes are found inside the logging trailer, proving he made it to the cabin with Ted. But his body is nowhere to be found. He has completely vanished into thin air. 45 years. That's how long investigators, journalists, and amateur researchers have been trying to explain what happened to the Yuba County 5. And in all that time, no one, not law enforcement, not the families, not a single person who has dedicated years of their life to this case, has been able to offer a theory that accounts for every piece of evidence. What follows are the leading explanations. None of them are proven. All of them leave something unanswered. The first theory is the simplest: disorientation and exposure. Some investigators believe there is no mystery here at all, only tragedy. The theory goes like this. On the drive home from Chico, the The group took a wrong turn somewhere in the dark, possibly compounded by fog or a road closure detour. Rather than turning back, they kept driving deeper into unfamiliar terrain until the car became stuck in snow. From there, panic, cold, and unfamiliarity led to a series of increasingly poor decisions. Hypothermia is known to cause exactly this kind of impaired judgment, confusion, poor decision-making, even paradoxical undressing. This theory accounts for a lot, but it does not explain Ted Weiher, a man surrounded by food and heat who used almost none of it. The second theory centers on Gary Mathias himself, and a diagnosis that adds a deeply complicating layer. Unlike the other four men, Mathias had a documented history of treatment connected to a schizophrenia diagnosis. Some researchers have raised the possibility that Mathias experienced an acute psychiatric episode that night, one that could have led him to make erratic decisions, potentially influencing the group's direction. This theory is delicate. It does not suggest malice or intent. Psychiatric crisis is not culpability. But critics point out it still doesn't explain why four other men went along with a detour that far off course. The third theory is the one that refuses to go away: foul play. Ken Wright, an investigator who spent years combing through this case, has been candid about how little concrete evidence exists. What remains is largely town rumors and speculation. And yet Wright and others remain unconvinced that five capable men simply drove 70 miles into the mountains by accident. They point to the extreme specificity of the wrong turn. A local man who came forward years later, claiming he'd spent that same night parked in his own car a short distance from where the Mercury was found. And the strange, prolonged behavior inside the trailer, which some argue is more consistent with a man who was afraid to leave, or who believed someone or something was outside. And there is a fourth possibility, that we are simply missing information. Road closure never documented. A witness who saw something that night and never came forward. Cold cases from this era are by their nature incomplete. What we're left with then is this: a car, 70 miles off course, a quarter tank of gas and an unlocked door, four men scattered across miles of forest, a fifth man surviving alone for months beside food he wouldn't eat, and a sixth, Gary Mathias, who may have walked out of that trailer into a wilderness that has never given him back. No arrests have ever been made. The case remains, to this day, formally unsolved. Four men are gone. A fifth was never found. And the only witness who could tell us what really happened on that mountain has been silent for 45 years. If you know something, if your family has ever spoken about that February night, if a name in this file means something to you, the frequency is always open. This has been Midnight at Wolf Cloud Station. Lock your doors and stay off the mountain roads after dark. We'll be listening.